Hey, what's happening, gamers? Welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles on KwingsLetsPlays, brought to you by our friends over at Capcom. How's everybody doing? Today is part 36, the Decade of Deception, case number 8. Or if you're following along with the Great Ace Attorney Adventures number 2 Resolve, then this would be case 3. But since we're doing it as a collection, this is the 8th case out of 10. And this one is quite a doozy. So we're having a little bit of, I guess, internet-related issues, so hopefully it won't be too bad. Okay, so without further ado, stream was delayed so I could make some tea so I don't have to get up during the stream. Yes, also Amber misunderstood that when I said please stream, or move the stream until 5, it didn't mean streaming the other game until past 5. It meant, you know, just move the other stream till 5 and then, of course, stop around 4 or something. But anyway, we'll be making a duplicate save file just in case we have to do this case tomorrow. And yes, Sonic Colors is happening tonight, so that is going to be interesting. I haven't played the game since 2010? No. 2000... It was like 5 years ago we did that. We did the Dolphin emulator for the Wii or something like that. Mm. Yeah, it was an emulator. Everybody was like, how did you make it look so good back then? Emulator. Although we don't have the technology to do that anymore.
Oh, okay. Throw.
It might be your fault. Going all over the place. Alright. In the cemetery 10 years ago earlier. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. Yes, the illustration in the newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. Okay. Wait a minute! You're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now? Of course, you'd have to have a screw loose if you believe a corpse could come back from the dead. But, so you're saying this article is not worth the paper it's printed on? I think that would describe it perfectly, yes. Ugh.
If the details in the article aren't even true, it nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Mr. Scythe would have been working together, Ryunosuke.
So he's discrediting himself to cripple my argument, eh?
Tell me, witness. You claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business. Can you please elaborate?
Of course.
I don't understand how he's part robot.
I have no idea. That's right, grave robbing to be precise. As you know, Lowgate Cemetery is the rear of Bar Clay Prison. So among the students at the university, it had a reputation for being haunted by ghosts of condemned convicts.
Grave robbing, you say?
Yes. Exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuables buried with the dead.
So you were one of the so-called resurrectionists, a particularly unpleasant scourge on society.
Actually, my fellows and I went by another name. The Repurposers.
What?
That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir?
Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it into print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me, unambiguously, I might add. I see.
Out of interest, who drew the illustration for this article?
Ah, yes, that was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I described the scene.
And why didn't you tell him that it was false?
Obviously, at the time, ticked on bitterly, I regretted what I'd done. Claiming to have seen something I never saw. Foolish. Very foolish.
So you did claim to see it at the time.
Alright then.
Why would you say that?
Well, counsel for the defense, you may now proceed in your cross-examination.
Happy 39th birthday! Patrick! Happy birthday, Patrick!
Happy birthday, Patrick.
Have a great birthday today!
At once, my lord. Cross-examination. In the cemetery 10 years earlier. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say.
Hold it!
By moonlighting you mean grave robbing, do you? Surely, you only need to look at the graveyard scene and my appearance to gauge the answer to that.
The lantern and the spade.
But who on earth would want to buy a dead body?
Any major hospital.
A hospital?
In order to better understand the human body, the study of anatomy is crucial to medical science. But there isn't a hospital in the world that has enough specimens to work with. Though obviously, they can't openly express an interest in obtaining more by more dubious means.
As inspiring scientists, we young research students had no money to work with. I'm sure you can imagine. So we made other arrangements with a hospital via some of our medical student acquaintances. We would never take anything of value from the graves. This was all from the furtherance of science, you see. That's what we all told ourselves every time we stole into the graveyard at night, spade in hand.
You realize body snatching is a serious crime. If you were caught, you would expect the gravest of consequences.
We students were taught between the hammer and the anvil. We needed funds for research.
Oh, you're a criminal.
The Professor Hairbrain said exactly the same thing.
Quite speechless at the apparent levity with which you revealed this abhorrent behavior.
Well, if you wanted to know why I was at the Lowgate Cemetery, that's the reason. But I never expected to the end the way it did. That I regret to this day.
Yeah, right. You're lying. You're lying through your teeth! Sorry, that was a little loud. Lying.
Yes, the illustration in that newspaper article was based on what I had witnessed that night.
I would love to put him up to a lie detector test.
The strange happening at Lowgate Cemetery, which you now deny? Not entirely. I ran to fetch the police at the time, you know. I was shaking like a leaf. But they didn't believe a word of it. In fact, I was very nearly arrested myself. So you went to the papers instead, then? I started big with the London News, but unsurprisingly, they didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was the reporters from the gossip rags, the gutter press, that came to me and got my story. It was spread like the plague through the capital as gossip-hungry Londoners lapped up the tale.
Why did you give it to them if you didn't believe it? That doesn't make any sense.
The story was in every single paper at the time, with exception of some broadsheets.
And yet, only 1 or 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of them accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories.
Yeah, right.
What about the article in the Daily Circus? That particular journalist found me at my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. So I recounted to him exactly what happened that night.
You just said that you lied about it.
And from the description he drew this illustration. Precisely. That's how I learned that the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporter told me so. I had no idea myself, you see.
Newspaper reporters are wont to scoop around in matters they don't concern. So the scene portrayed in the illustration is accurate then, yes?
Well,
Thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor at all, though.
Hold it!
Then why did you say you did?
What are you talking about?
Lies.
I think I explained already, didn't I?
No, you did not.
Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of the prison. So it was renowned among us students at the university for being haunted by ghosts of condemned convicts.
I don't know if this is on Switch as well, guys.
Yes.
It is.
For some absurd reason, I was scared of the graveyard at night. Capcom gave us the PS5 version because...
Oh yeah, did we already say that? Oh,
always. It's the first thing I say. They gave us a PS5 version because they didn't have any Switch copies left to give us. So they were like, "Are you okay with the PlayStation version?"
Yeah. Are we?
I was like, "Yeah, no problem." For some reason, I was scared of the graveyard at the night, and as a result, only too willingly to believe that nonsense from the dead coming back to life. But you said you actually saw it. I said what I'd seen in my mind's eye. After all, resurrection is impossible, isn't it? You have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Lazarus Pits!
Then why did you tell people you saw that?
Unless,
liar?
of course.
What?
You have some evidence that proves I encountered the professor that night?
Are you mocking us?
I don't know. Is there any material evidence that could show he really did discover the professor? No.
If we have anything at all, Mr. Naruhodou, then we need...
I know, I need to present it against that irritatingly backtracking statement of his.
Yep.
The point is, that night was a pivotal moment in my life. Okay, so that was our hint. So, soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model from me made of wax.
Hold it!
Oops. That young woman being Madame Tuspell, of course. Yes, precisely. I must say I didn't expect to run into her again like this 10 years later.
Oh, as I have expected. I mean explained. I went by the name published in the article, and Kumaka, I found the man.
Yes, the article in the Daily Circus, I think you said. I was a poor student with barely a penny to thy name. And the young lady put £5 in front of me.
So you readily consented to having a waxwork of yourself made and gave permission for it to be put on display.
I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded.
Ah, oui, I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day. Nasty pass. I don't know. Nasty pass.
Did you? I can't say I remember. What was it, madam? Can you tell me?
Steampunk, definitely. Here's camera.
Ah! Oh yes, I made a point of taking it with me whenever I made an excursion into the cemetery.
You took a camera with you, sir. To what end?
To record the details of the bodies I, disearthed. But I had no intention of ever visiting a graveyard again after that night, so I sold it.
I see.
But I still have it, monsieur. It is part of the special exhibit in my House of Horrors. I am very meticulous about such details. It is the Tuspell's way. It would seem, then, that this is the very camera Mr. Drebber took with him to the Lowgate Cemetery on the night in question.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. The details of the camera have been updated in the court record.
Okay, there we go.
Steampunk hype! Definitely a Droggle.
Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article.
Hold it!
Ookies. This article, you mean, published in the Daily Circus? Yes, somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article, and carelessly let slip that night after night I was digging up graves, hardly a model student, you might say. The university's reputation was, defiled, and I was expelled as a result.
What? Why would you be expelled because you saw some crazy person.
No, he was digging up graves.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I completely wasn't.
That was completely justified.
Oh, I thought he was expelled because he thought he saw a ghost. I was like, that's such a stupid reason to get expelled.
No, he's a grave robber.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mon Dieu, I have no idea.
And having been run out of the university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade.
You combined your knowledge of science with the knowledge of stage magic to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology. And you used those deceptive machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. Professor Albert Hairbrain was just your latest victim, wasn't he? Whatever are you talking about? I have no recollection of doing anything of that sort.
Liar, liar.
What's Drebber up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim?
I wonder if perhaps it's because the circumstances have changed now.
What circumstances?
Well, if he admits to having seen the professor emerging alive from his grave 10 years ago, it will expose a secret in Dr. Scythe's past that she would desperately want to hide. Why would he want to help Dr. Scythe?
Yeah, of course. If Drebber and Dr. Scythe are working together now, then if Drebbers were to betray her, there would be no reason for her to continue to cooperate. In that case, there's only one way around it. I'll have to prove he really did see it. Prove he really did see the professor's corpse coming back from the dead, as he originally claimed.
Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, exactly!
Oh boy, so we're back to this again.
Blackmail K-Wife. Yeah, definitely
Yay,
Drongo.
blackmail! Blackmail's always fun.
You're doing such a great job, Luke. I'm really bad at figuring these out.
You're fine.
You have a little cat on you.
Yeah, she's on one of my legs.
Blackmail, says Tara Ann.
Alright, we might need a hint, guys and gals. I'm not sure what to press this on.
It would suck if she's guilty too. I think she is guilty. Side. I just don't like him. Mr. Drebber's lying. Definitely Rebecca. How's everyone doing? Hey, Nintendo Sonic Game Girl. Yeah, yeah, I mean, her outfit is definitely witch-like, the Madame Tuspell. I still think she's not a witch. I mean, she could be a secret witch, but I think her primary job is wax figures. But, I mean, she could be a witch, but I think she's mainly just trying to wear a scary outfit, but I don't really know her personally.
Thinking back now, I realized that they never actually saw the professor at night, though, but the article, contradicts that. The Daily Circus article says that he saw it.
Oh, did you guys examine the camera, says AA.
No, we haven't examined the camera yet. We'll do that.
Maybe we should examine the camera. There must be a photo in it. What a wonderful machine!
You really love contraptions like this, don't you, Susie?
Oh, yes. Anything mechanical I find absolutely irresistible.
Almost irresistible, surely.
Well, whenever I see a pocket watch, for example, I can't help myself. I simply have to take it apart.
That's worrying.
Yes, Father tells the time by rumblings of his stomach now. He's given up having a watch.
Poor Professor Mikotoba. Oh, there appears to be a picture.
Nani?
This is where a photographic plate goes, I think, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Isn't it incredible to think that this is the actual camera Mr. Drebber used that night? I certainly never imagined a piece of evidence would be on display in Madame Tuspell's.
She's very keen on everything being as true to life as possible, though, isn't she?
But I thought they said there was a photograph still in it when we first looked at it a while ago. So maybe they took the photo from it. Look, Mr. Naruhodo!
What is it?
On the bellows just here, there seems to be some very dark red stains.
Yeah, you're right. It looks like blood, actually.
Oh my!
I'm sorry, I'm sure it's not what you're thinking, haha.
It's jam.
There's been updated court. Why would there be blood on the camera? It's only on one side of the camera, too.
Because...
Of course, because the corpse was shot.
Yeah, the corpse was shot and he...
And he had his camera out, so then he got...
I wonder if he knows who shot them.
I don't think he knows who shot them. Or maybe he does.
Maybe it was Scythe.
Maybe no, why would she kill the professor?
Blood stains! That's right, Silver Leo. That's right, OH. The wax figure's lady outfit is cute. Yeah, I agree, Droggle. Her outfit is pretty cute. She's like an anime... She looks like an anime witch girl. She was like a cosplay witch.
There's nothing for us to read here, though.
The witch outfit could be a great way to sell tickets. That's right, Robloxian.
Thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor. But then why did you...
Objection.
Why did you say it in the article? Sorry, Mr. Drebber, but I don't believe that. I don't believe what? Your latest claim, sir. You did see the professor on the night 10 years ago. Oh dear, we seem to be at odds, but I was there, and you were not. I know what I didn't see. The illustration with this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalist that you witnessed.
Yeah, that he was shot.
A figure emerging from the tomb wearing an iron mask. Ah.
Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago. It was decided in the closed court ruling that the man would wear the mask to hide his identity. It wasn't to be removed even during his execution and subsequent burial.
That's disturbing.
Not even the prison wardens were to see the man's face. But obviously, the provision of this mask was not public knowledge.
So, Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard, a lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. So unless you actually have seen the professor that night, it's inconceivable that the artist would have concluded the mask in his illustration.
Order, Mr. Drebber!
Yeah, if nobody knew, then how could he know the guy was wearing a mask? He obviously knew.
It's a vile scene, isn't it, if you look closely? Huh? And as I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified. Which is why I had it in my head that I'd seen such a blood-curdling sight.
Right,
But afterwards, I came to my senses and realized that I'd been mistaken. You're still saying you didn't see it?
If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceived you.
Of course. Only happy to oblige. Ha ha ha. Can't believe he's still not gonna concede this stupid point. Man, he's smug. What I in fact witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work. A fellow grave robber? What are you talking about? Well, I wasn't the only one in the cemetery that night. You know, other body snatchers were at work.
What?
Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped. So that's the terrifying sight I actually saw, you see.
You're claiming it was just another student on equally insorbulous business as yourself.
Many of the medical students would wear metal masks to protect them from bacteria during dissections. What? Clearly the fellow using such a mask to protect his face and anonymity, wouldn't you say?
You would never wear an iron mask. No.
But there's more story, isn't there? The article goes on to say, in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced the resurrected man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more.
We might assume that the sexton discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired upon one of them.
If a gravedigger had shot someone in the cemetery, I think it might have been rather big news, my lord.
Ah, yes, well,
I can only assume it was an embellishment bolted on... Oh. Oh.
Excuse me.
Excuse me. Madam Tuspell. Don't take it out on Mr. Sholmes.
Pardon-moi? Oh la la, pardon? I was lost in my thoughts.
Would it be fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way?
I thought it was a little strange, that is all. How Monsieur Drebber would claim this now.
If you don't mind me saying, madam, what are you talking about?
Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you recounted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, no? Including the gunshot.
Stop. You might want to watch your tongue, you know.
Objection.
have a care, Mr. Drebber. That's no way to speak to a lady, especially as lovely as her.
Grr. Please, Madam Tuspells, carry on.
Of course. According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him, and the bullet hit the condemned man.
I said nothing of the sort.
No? You were very explicit about the details, Mr. Drebber. About the mask that the figure was wearing at the time, and the blood that splattered over you when he was shot.
Enough. Shut up, woman. You're making this all up.
There's no reason for her to.
That will do. Mr. Drebber,
Yes.
you refute this account just given by Madame Tuspell?
I have no recollection of everything she is saying, no. Come on, man. Do you really expect us to believe...
Control your self-defense. I'll not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom.
Ah, phooey.
Under the circumstances, I think it's best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this witness.
Very well.
This is getting ridiculous.
There was no gunshot from behind me at all, nor any blood splattering. Oh.
Objection, we saw it on the camera.
Yep. Exactly, there was no gunshot from behind me, no splattering of any blood. Then why is there blood on the camera?
Camera versus that one, says Droggle. Use the camera, says Storyboard Writing.
Mr. Drebber, do you remember this camera by chance?
But that is the camera from that fateful night.
Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horrors. It's the camera you took from the cemetery that night with you, isn't it, Mr. Drebber?
He's mad.
And is that supposed to be significant? This kind of camera isn't rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed that the lens extends forward on the end of some bellows. Like this.
Hold it!
What's that? There, just on the bellows.
Whoa!
It looks like a dark red stain.
Whoa!
That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact, isn't it?
Good Lord, are you suggesting?
I think I am, my lord. Yeah, it would appear to be a splatter of blood.
Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Scythe? It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. But yes, to test whether or not it's blood is all that simple enough.
I propose that Madame Tuspell's testimony was in fact correct, and that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were splattered with blood from the gunshot wound.
Oh!
Well, And furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. Does not compute. Error. There's simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night.
Objection!
Enough! But why? Why would he want to do that?
Well, not for his own gain, it would seem.
For whose then? Who could benefit?
Mr. Drebber is obviously lying in order to protect somebody.
My goodness, he's shielding someone?
Yes, my lord, and clearly, it's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed.
Well, Consul, who is it then? Who is this witness he's trying to protect lying about what he saw that night?
It wasn't Dr. Scythe, is it?
Yeah.
You think so? You think he's known her all this time?
I don't know where you recently met her and...
No, but they're saying 10 years ago he protected somebody.
Oh, wow.
10 years ago, she would have been 29. He would have been 25.
So then she shot him.
I-
She must have shot him.
Yeah, because...
She had to have shot him because she wanted him to die.
Whoa. 10 years ago, she was 16?
Yeah, that's what the chat's been saying, but I haven't been able to
Oh my
correct you.
gosh.
So when she took the mask of him and she was doing all that stuff with the dead guy, she was 16 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So Sholmes is... Yeah, he was in his 20s too back then. How old is Baron Van Zieks? So he would have been in his 20s.
Wow, he looks good for 33.
I know.
He must be a vampire.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he does.
There's no way. He looks like he's 20 years old.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wait, how old is Susato?
Susie
Susato.
says she's 16.
What? No way. I don't believe it.
Age of consent is different in Japan, though.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize she was 16 years
Yep.
old.
All right, let's try this. So she would have been 29, an older woman. He was simping for her, I bet.
Wow.
That's what I'm thinking.
Simp.
The obvious answer is Dr. Scythe.
Scythe? But why? Whatever do you mean?
I imagine if the convict had been sentenced to death, was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light.
What are you insinuating?
And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was the professor.
That would be unprecedented scandal.
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. I need to point out that the dead cannot come back to life. What are you suggesting would mean the execution never actually happened?
Yes, that's exactly what I would mean.
Objection!
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape, not in Great Britain.
Objection!
But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging.
What you're saying is true, Consul. The implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would taint the honor of the entire, justice system from the ground up.
And it's exactly because of these monumental repercussions that Dr. Scythe would consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret, even if it meant being complicit in a crime.
You mean to say?
I mean that Dr. Scythe wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asman with the waxwork model and fabricated the autopsy report.
Oh!
Whoa.
Nani?
Lord Van Zieks? Pray forgive my freshly filled hallowed chalice and a whole raft of other discourtesies now. Goodness me! It's just that the sort of telltale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead, a Scotland Yard cover-up, a conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one thing. What's that? If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night, only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever? Well, I have no idea at the moment.
We have too little information to work that out at present, I think.
I couldn't agree more. The Old Bailey is no place for wild fantasies. And you have considered this, my learned friend. Considered what?
Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity? Oh, sorry, that was him.
It is tantamount to declare war on the entire British police force and the justice system.
What? Hard to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it.
To rely on some stage deception when so much is at stake could be madness. Well, I suppose.
And this was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who'd already invested money in the venture and would be instrumental in future profits too.
Yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Asman at all. Or are you forgetting that his death results in receiving not a single penny? The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim, no?
Yes, that is the contract, that's true. Look at this.
Oh, pooey. The motive for this case runs deep, though. I can feel it.
Using threats to force the head of the forensic investigation team to cooperate is extreme. Especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving in the first place.
If there was a research grant was the aim, taking Mr. Asman's life would have made no sense anyway. Which means Mr. Drever's motive wasn't money at all. He was just trying to kill Mr. Asman. But why? What was his motive then?
Your time is up, my learned friend. I'd say you have no less chance before the jury lose their patience with this charade. Let us see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we? How do you explain why this engineer would throw all the caution to the wind and threaten his own country? Yes, at this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, Consul, I present your evidence.
Okay, who exactly was Mr. Asman to Dreber? There's a connection that no one's seen yet. And I'm gonna have to present 2 pieces of evidence to show what it is.
Silverleo says, sounds like the mask has to come off.
Yes, my lord.
I agree.
The evidence that establishes a motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead is right here.
I would say the guy under the mask. I mean, we haven't even seen who's under the mask. The evidence. Well, it's not your armband. That's what I know. I don't think it's a balloon.
Trevor's contract. Investor Asman hereby enters into a contract with the provider, Mr. Enoch Dreber, to fund labor and materials for the construction of a super high voltage instantaneous kinetics machine. Mr. Dreber is to receive 30% of all from the government grants or other income. Mr. Dreber may only uphold his right on condition that both contacting parties are alive.
Oh, wow. So...
Wait a second. What? Both contacting parties are alive.
So...
Maybe they're not talking about Mr. Asman and the other guy needs to be. Or Drebber needs to be. Because look, it has 2 signatures.
Yeah, I know. So Asman and Drebber...
Why is the professor's signature not there? The scientist isn't there.
Mr. Drebber will receive 30%.
Where? I don't even see... Terms of investment. Where's the,
Why would they even put that in there? Why would you even say both need to be alive? Why would you even say that?
That's fishy. Mr. Drebber, I have here the contract that you signed with Mr. Asman. Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man.
Oh, wow. Maybe that's why he signed it.
No,
so
I'm afraid not. As it turns out, this contract actually helps to establish the real motive for murder you committed.
Huh?
It does? Well, I never. What are you talking about? Read it again, you idiot. That's not nice, and I'm not finished. In order to demonstrate what your real motive was, I need this contract and one other piece of evidence. What other evidence do you need? Yes, please let us know, Consul. You'll present your supplementary evidence without delay. The evidence, which then cross-reference with the contract, establishes a motive for the deed.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
So...
We're part right, so we got this correct.
A motive for the deed. Why is that signed Asman right there?
Where?
On the photo.
What?
Mr. Asman signed the photo.
Why did he sign the photo? Wait, was he working at the newspaper?
Wait. Mr. Asman.
Mr... Wait. The only paper... He worked for the tabloid? But I thought he was a shrewd businessman. I'm so confused.
It says his name right there.
So it was for revenge.
Take that!
It's this newspaper. It's the newspaper again, my lord. That was written 10 years ago, and every detail was examined already. What could you possibly tell us that we don't know? That drivel should never have been printed. It's typical gutter trash. Nonsense.
Objection!
But there's something significant that this newspaper article and the contract have in common. Really? The signature. It's the common link between it all. It shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Asman. It seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed. So, my learned friend, point out exactly what these 2 pieces of evidence have in common. Where exactly is the link between the article and the contract?
Same signature.
Same signature, yeah.
Take that!
These 2 pieces of evidence have one thing in common. Is a signature. A signature? Yes. The signature of the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature of the contract belong to the same person. What? Ah!
Oh my gosh.
As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen here at the bottom right of the drawing.
So, maybe without that article, he wouldn't have been connected to grave robbing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much that he saw the dead guy, it's more like because his name was written there, and it was like, this guy was out of the graveyard at night, and then they're like, why were you there? Oh, I was robbing graves. Oh, you're expelled now. Oh, I lost my scholarship. My life is over.
Yep.
And if the guy didn't actually write the article about him... So it wasn't really the ghost that he saw, or the guy coming from the dead. It was more the fact that he was robbing graves in general, I think, is what... And if his name was... If it was just like, oh, the student robbing graves saw a dead guy. But no! The guy wrote his name there.
Yep. And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see it's the same signature at the bottom.
Let me see now. Good lord, yes! They're identical!
Whoa.
In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published by about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of this case, Mr. Osmond.
So he hated him his whole life for that.
Mm-hmm.
Objection!
But explain to the court why! Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder Esmond?
Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony.
Grave robbing, you say?
Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell to reasonably lucrative medical students.
That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite the divine retribution of that, sir?
Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it to print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with a bad grace to identify me.
Wow.
Then I gave up my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper.
Wow. And he would have been a good person, or, well, I don't know if you're really a good person if you're robbing graves, but, I mean, I don't know.
I haven't seen related stuff.
At the time, you were a student of the University of London who dreamt of becoming a scientist. However, this single newspaper changed your entire life.
So Mr. Ashman used to be a newspaper journalist, did he? He did, my lord. In fact, it was widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of this criminal network, thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as a reporter.
So, you had to give up on your dream and leave the university. You lost everything. Eventually, you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows.
Wow.
And all because of that article, written by Mr. Asman. Enough!
Oh my gosh.
Fine.
You found him out, and then he killed the guy.
Stop this endless drivel about my life. What?
Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber.
Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? Almost every student of science in the facility was too poor to actually conduct any research. But they struggled to do with their hypothesis anyway. We all did, only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew your ideas would be stolen and planted by some wretched, or others after all, patented.
Good gracious!
Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of Lowgate was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Drebber?
No, he wanted to be in the university.
Do you genuinely believe that? Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether now or not I possess a talent for science than me? I'm sorry to say that your words don't ring true at all. How dare you? And I have the evidence to prove it. How are you in position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Fine, if you think you have evidence, go ahead. Show it.
I feel bad for this guy. But...
What could you possibly have to disprove that idea? Do we have his trophy? Did we take that?
Oh, yay.
Oh my gosh, we did!
We have the trophy.
We have the trophy.
He kept it all these years.
Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? We found it at your workshop.
Is that a Royal Society Trophy for Excellence in Science? What exactly is this trophy, Council? I'm a bit confused.
It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed on a young scientist, my lord.
There is no higher accolade. It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future. Good gracious!
Your prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drebber? Because even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article.
Yeah, but couldn't he have reapplied to the university like 5 years later?
No, not back then.
Really? Couldn't you say, like, I'm sorry, or like, I won't do this again, or like, do community service and then come back 5 years later and try it again?
Nope.
Why not, though? It seems wrong. You don't give someone a second chance.
Yeah, I know. I don't know when you realized it. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asman was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist from 10 years ago who ruined your life, it's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. The truth is... Finally! He's gonna fold! Who said hold it?
Hold it. Ha. Fine. Clearly this has run its course now.
What?
I admit it. All of it.
What? What are you doing?
It's exactly as the Japanese man said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim, on the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago.
No! Good Lord!
Oh, wow.
Dr. Scythe, you do realize what you're saying? What you're saying, woman, right?
It's all true. That day, when I arrived at the Crystal Tower and saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago that I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself. It was the professor again, staring me in the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket. Dr. Scythe, you will go along with my plan. From someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night 10 years ago. All the instructions were there in the note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. I made the necessary alterations to the scene, fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There was really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now.
What? I did not see that coming.
Why on earth would you buckle now?
Conscience. Well, there's no point in trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out, even collaborated a murder. But the great lie about that execution 10 years ago has now been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished.
So then, Mr. Drebber, what do you have to say to that? Your accomplice has admitted to everything. Surely it goes without saying. You admit your part in it too, then? I admit nothing. at all. What? Have you forgotten the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove I did anything wrong. No! Oh my gosh. Order! Order!
Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with it. And Lord Van Zieks,
Yes.
I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course.
I have heard more than enough now. Hereby present the final findings of this court. This trial is not the proper form in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drebber. The defendant, Professor Hairbrain. Very true. It had slipped my mind.
Isn't he the one of your closest friends?
As the court has heard, Dr. Scythe has admitted to the allegations brought by the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt.
Ha! You mean?
Yes. At the present time, it is conclusive of this court the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objection? Yes, I have a friend. I forgot.
You have one friend, Van Zieks.
None, my lord. My friend is fine.
Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo! You've proven Professor Hairbrain's innocence!
Without further ado, then, the court is adjourned. Unless the prosecution or defense have any other matters to discuss.
I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. Why did Dr. Scythe suddenly admit to...
Is everything alright, Mr. Naruhodo?
Like you said before, the way the trial is set to end now, the judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. But is that really what we want? What the defense should be pursuing for now is...
Further testimony?
I guess.
Why, though? We already got
One.
not guilty.
Objection.
Why?
The defense objects to the trial ending at this time, my lord.
I beg your pardon? It's not guilty, man.
We demand one final testimony.
Huh?
Good gracious, what? Order! Order! You do realize I'm about to, do in your favor of your client, I presume? What are you playing at now, my Nipponese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of this trial at this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that.
I'm not in my right mind.
Mr. Naruhodo, what exactly are you thinking?
I have no idea. The truth, the whole truth, and way to bring it all out into the open.
Right!
Yes. In hindsight... yes. One word of warning before I go. If in the course of this trial afternoon you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. To the bitter end, you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass.
Maybe Dr. Scythe is lying. Maybe she wasn't involved.
No, she was involved. I'm sure Mr. Sholmes knew. He must have deduced what had happened. Yes, I'm here in the court to advocate for my client, and to secure an acquittal.
Obviously, of course, duh.
But that's not all. I believe that I have a duty to the court to pursue the whole truth of the case, until every last detail is laid bare.
Interesting.
And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. Scythe.
Testimony from me? About what?
about the nature of your collaboration with Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Ha! In case you escaped your attention, I've already admitted to everything that I did. The whole truth has already been revealed. Stop wasting everyone's time.
No!
We didn't see who's behind the mask. And his lordship made very plain. Your client will get the acquittal you wanted for him. There's simply no point protracting this business further with another tedious cross-examination.
Objection!
Goodbye, bottle. Pray forgive my careless handling of that hallowed bottle that slipped and hit the person behind me and slipped him into a coma.
Why did you do that?
What is your objection, Lord Van Zieks? The prosecution also calls for supplementary testimony from the witness, Dr. Scythe.
Don't be stupid.
If there is more to hide in this case that is yet to come to light, then I will join my learned friend in pursuing the facts until the bitter end. Because I have a stake
You
in
what?
this case.
Oh, a steak.
Lord Van
funny.
Zieks!
This is most irregular, to say the least.
Two vampires in the court.
However, the prosecution also calls for it. I will uphold the request. Dr. Scythe, you will testify for this court, explaining the full extent of the involvement of the murder apparently committed by Mr. Drebber.
Very well.
Ah, witness testimony. Here we go. The waxwork plot.
This would be a separate trial, but game logic. It all began on the scene when I saw the waxwork, and the actual body of the victim, as indicated in the notes instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it.
Whoa.
But who was in the mask?
So I was right. The stage and the machine were all specifically designed for deception.
So it seems, and all meticulously prepared. You did well to see through it. You're a very shrewd boy.
So kind of you to say, but I'm 24.
And what about this autopsy report then? And don't call him boy! All I did was record the location of the body as being in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage. That's all? That's a terrible corruption! Only my team were aware of the deceit, and then only under my explicit instructions. Nobody else at Scotland Yard knew anything about it, I assure you.
We must be thankful for all the small mercies, I suppose. Well, I believe that testimony has clarified everything. There's no particular need for a cross-examination, I would say.
No, I disagree. I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Just look at that expression on Dr. Sai's face.
She looks like a snake.
It's the defense's right to cross-examine any witness following a testimony.
What is it about you Japanese that makes you all so doggedly persistent? What is it about you that makes you prejudiced?
All right, let's stop the prejudiceness. If you so desire, defense, proceed with the cross-examination as you please.
Yes, my lord, I shall.
Even though I was just insulted by the witness.
The waxwork plot.
It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside its jacket.
Hold it!
From what you described before, it sounds like the note was anonymous. Did you have any idea who was behind it?
There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I'd never heard of this engineer, so no, I had no idea.
Yet, despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it?
I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern.
But the horse was bolted now, and the stable door will never shut again.
Why would you protect the secret of a criminal? It doesn't make any sense.
Scotland Yard's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of these.
Yes, thank you, Lord Van Zieks. I'm well aware of that.
So, as I understand it, what you found in the birdcage was the waxwork model? Where then was the victim's body?
The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage.
Hold it!
Okay. So you knew about the special construction stage thing too, huh?
It was quite obvious what had happened with the victim and the waxwork.
And you switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you recorded the victim's body as having a discovered in the crystal tower and the wax figure.
I wrapped it and sent it by carriage to the specified address at the specified time.
And were you given any such directions?
Presumably so it could be recovered by Drebber and returned to Madame Tuspell.
I see. And then you put the birdcage back on the experimental stage.
Yes, although someone obviously made a mistake about which cage should go where. I thought I'd made it perfectly clear to the team, but still.
I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being more important detail.
The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the...
When you say arranged, I presume you mean with this.
Yes. The instructions in the engineer's notes said something along the lines of, fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Hairbrain alone could have killed Osman.
So you mean that was your doing?
I fetched Hairbrain's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage and took it with me alone to the abyss under the stage where the birdcage had fallen.
Alone, Doctor?
I didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anybody else in that particular part of the deception. Wait, did she say she killed him then?
No, the fall killed him.
Are you sure, though? There was a void under the stage where I found the birdcage lying in the dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. Man, she's dark. Then I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest. How did she know he was already dead, though? He could have been alive.
And then you noted that in your fake autopsy report as a fictitious cause of death.
Exactly.
So, the actual cause of death was...
The trauma resulting from the 30-foot drop.
My word.
That's it. What is it, Miss Susie?
Something about Dr. Sai's last statement, Ryunosuke, is playing on my mind, that's all.
Huh? Mine too. Dr. Scythe.
There's really no need to shout. I can hear you perfectly well.
The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony.
Oh? Which part?
What do I want her to supplement her testimony with is... what she did to the victim.
Yeah.
Yeah. How you stabbed Mr. Asman in the chest. That part.
Fine, if it's what you want, but there's really no need to point.
Pointing is fun.
Don't point at me!
Objection!
Ah!
The prosecution concurs.
They're double pointing.
You pointed at me, Van Zieks. Now I'm mad.
I mean, she's gonna tell the Chief Justice all this stuff.
Very well, you will supplement your testimony now, witness.
If you wish, my lord. Yeah, but why did the Chief Justice not want her to... It feels like he's corrupt, too.
I think he's the one who killed the guy in the graveyard. I mean...
Wow.
I don't know. It seems like there's a very big conspiracy going on. You love conspiracies. Yeah, you do.
I like uncovering. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay and... I don't like people to know that I do, though. I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in this toppled cage and plunged the screwdriver into the chest.
Ooh.
Because I'm a sick person! Sick and wrong! She's going to a bad place when she dies. You are going somewhere bad, lady. You are not a good person. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged.
So it was you who stabbed Asmund with this?
Yes, far easier than dissection, I assure you. No precision required.
What a welcome change!
The victim died instantly from a snapped neck. All I did was carry out the instructions that I'd been given.
As unflinching as ever, no doubt. I imagine you didn't bat an eyelid when you drove the weapon into his body.
I know, right? Creepy. There was no need to bat my eyelids.
And what else did you do to twist the facts? Remind the court why don't you?
If you wish. VG says, you're on the right track with the statement. Thanks, VG Shine. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene. So how many people were on the team? Then all those people are complicit, including your daughter.
Oh my gosh.
Her kids were working for her. So that means she's putting her kids in jail. What is wrong with her? Mother of the Year right here. But that doesn't make any sense. Look at the glasses right there. Oh, wait, no. Then they would have moved it.
Doesn't even look like his neck is broken, though.
But she said... I know, it doesn't look like his neck is broken. Also, didn't she say the victim's body was never at the tower? It was never moved to the tower. Then why is the glass there?
That last statement would seem at odds with this testimony somehow. What? Explain somehow to the court, not the other way out. Oh, whoopsies.
Oops.
I messed up.
I don't understand.
I didn't mean to do that. Just seems to jar through, don't you think? I don't know. I'm kind of stuck.
We have a lot of people who have played this, so...
Perhaps I need to reconsider this. Guys, I don't... she's a slippery one.
Guys, if we have to, we'll have to move the Sonic stream past 7:30. We might have to move it. Oh, we already moved it to 8, guys, so...
We already moved it to 8.
Sorry
What
about
am I supposed to present, guys? I'm kind of... She's
Silver Leo's like, haha. Scythe did it, says Cassie. Possibly. I mean, it's hard for me to believe.
I don't think she killed him. I think he was already dead, but...
I wish she killed him, because I just don't like her. She's so mean. I hope she's the murderer. I kind of wish for this other guy to go free, because he lost his scholarship.
No.
And I've lost a scholarship, so I can relate to him. Of course, I've never dug graves or robbed graves. It all began in the scene where I lost the waxwork. She's already gonna lose her job, says Goku.
Yeah, she's gonna lose her job.
Jail, says Joanna. Broken neck after falling? I don't think it's that simple. The victim was still breathing after he fell before she stabbed him. What if the victim was still breathing? Yeah, I agree, OH. I don't
believe so. 30 feet, that's a long ways down if you're, you know.
It's hard for me to believe that he was still... I mean, he looked like he was still alive, though. Oh, Sachio Troy says the blood mark is wrong if you would stab the man while asleep. While asleep or dead. What do you mean the blood mark is wrong?
So it was you who stabbed Mr. Asman.
Yes. Far easier than dissection, I assure you. No precision required.
Okay, we've already done this one. Yeah, I'm stuck.
Look at the man's clothes, says storyboard writing. Look at the man's clothes. The blood stained on his clothes. Look at his clothes. Looky.
I can't look at his clothes, but you can't. I tried to present a photo.
You had the right evidence. It was on the wrong statement, says Candle in the Dark.
Okay, so we need to use the photo, but on what statement? Yeah, that's...
Photograph. What do we mean, look at the man's clothes? What do you mean, look at his clothes?
I mean, he's bloody right there. That's where she stabbed him.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Okay, so what statement do we present the photograph on, you guys? Because I'm lost.
Statement 4 says Candle.
We just tried it.
Links Candle in the Dark. Which was statement 4? That's 1, 2, 3. No, we're on statement 5 right here.
Oh, it is?
I stood over the victim where it lay. That's statement 4.
Oh. Okay, so then I did do the wrong statement. Alright, so we'll do this one then. Whoops. Where's this picture?
This picture is... You passed it.
I did? No.
Well, I mean... Yeah, I mean, just keep going. There it is. No. Just keep... What are you doing? There! There.
Objection.
Okay. I've got a nasty feeling that this inconsistency points to an extremely uncomfortable truth.
What on earth is the matter, Consul? Have you lost your tongue?
I apologize, my lord. Dr. Scythe, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point that seems to defy explanation.
Out with it, my learned friend. What is going on?
There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph.
How would the blood flow down if he was laying horizontally? That's
Which
what,
shows the victim in the birdcage following the events that led to his death.
That's what Zio says.
The court has already examined the photograph in depth. There is nothing new we can learn from it.
Objection.
Yes, we have already considered it, that's true. But we know now the facts to be very different.
What do you mean? I believe we should let the defense explain. Where in this photo would you see the alleged inconsistency with the witness's statement?
Well, they say the blood, so we'll do the blood.
Yeah, because it's flowing down. She said he was lying flat. So why would it flow down? That's a good idea. That's a good point, Zio.
Look closely at the blood stain of the victim's chest. It clearly extends downward towards the man's feet.
And why is that significant, Consul?
Well, if the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected.
Ah, of course. No, that's not what happened.
Exactly, my lord. Dr. Scythe made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which she stole the Professor Hairbane screwdriver and stabbed the victim was after the grand deception was set in motion when the birdcage had fallen down the stage out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen on its side after the 30-foot drop, and the victim had already been stabbed whilst inside the birdcage in that position. The blood flow from the wound would have been spread out equally in all directions. For it to have formed the longitude appearance we see in the picture is inconceivable. Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must have been the case when you stabbed Mr. Asman he was standing up. In short, Dr. Scythe, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. She killed him?
It's possible.
I knew it. I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction. There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here.
What? What sort of misapprehension?
Dr. Scythe, you claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you authorized a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an outright lie, because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us is only one plausible answer.
If that is the case, what does it mean, man? Consul, you've clearly struck up a revelation. Now tell the court what it is.
Whoa.
Which part of Dr. Scythe's story is shown to be a lie by the contradiction of her testimony?
The stabbing of the victim, then.
Yeah. I mean...
The answer is very simple if you consider the sequence of events. If when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downwards as it did, it can be sure that the victim was, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time.
But as you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have been fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage.
Yes, it would, which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord.
Objection!
That is impossible. The man was dead, remember?
No, that is the misreception. That's the error.
What?
When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force.
Oh my gosh.
But Mr. Asman didn't die in the fall. How did his neck not break then?
I don't know, maybe he's super strong.
He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came around, he got his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Scythe appeared.
She murdered him.
If the victim was in fact alive at the point in time, it changes everything. Ah. Wow. Mr. Asman's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert, Hairbrain. Nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Drebber. It was you, Courtney Scythe.
Ah! I could have done that better.
You're fine.
Order! Order! Can this possibly be true?
Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him? You hoped that by admitting to be an accomplice in Mr. Drebber's scheme, the trial would end. Before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder!
Oh, do shut up! You're so desperate now. You're making this all up, as if I would do something like that.
Objection.
Ah! I assure you, the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Ha! Logic. Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it.
What? What do you mean?
I'd have thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive. What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asman?
Asman was involved in a number of criminal activities, from coercion to theft to murder. But there was no known connection to Dr. Scythe there. Ah! I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched.
True, there's no obvious motive, but there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints why the coroner might have done this.
Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report, but murdering someone for no reason is a very different story.
Objection.
No. When you questioned what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asman, something did come to mind.
What?
What was it, Consul? Enlighten the court at once!
Yes, we saw it yesterday, didn't we? Something that seems strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Scythe would wanted to kill Mr. Asman. What?
Well, she does order 500 scalpels a month, but the Iron Mask, I think, is the...
We'll go with your first instinct. Let's try option B. Scalpels.
Okay.
It's a scalpel, or rather, scalpels.
Did you say scalpels?
Ah!
It would appear that word has struck a chord, Doctor.
You! Come on! Out with it!
It was yesterday when we visited your lab. Look at that big, thick book there.
Ah! It appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh!
What is it?
It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but... Well, one entry seems rather strange, Ryunosuke.
Really? In what way?
They're buying 500 scalpels every month! Wow, I have a good memory, I remembered.
Good job, Amber.
Luke, I have a good memory.
500 scalpels a month?
At first, I wondered what on earth could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money for them, disappearing every month from the department's accounts.
Asman's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion for its funding. Tracing the money from forensic investigation team's account to find out where it was going would be extremely straightforward.
Ugh.
10 years ago, when Mr. Asman was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, he may very well have stumbled upon information as he was researching the story. Information relating to Dr. Scythe's darkest secret that he could use to rack up money from her for the next decade.
A darkest secret? Good lord, you mean...
I don't know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago, but clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asman in the heart with all your might. To silence the blackmailer you knew who had your darkest secret.
Whoa. Man, this lady looks evil and is evil. You'll never understand! None of you! What we've had to keep covered up all these long years! Just tell us, then.
Well, you're dead.
Capital punishment, even if you were a lady. I think. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know if she would have gotten capital punishment or not.
Really? They would not hang women or something?
I don't know. I think she'd be in jail forever.
Wow.
As very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb, the truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out.
And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Scythe will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done. Tell the court the truth about what happened.
10 years ago, you told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your delay now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for, to sever the hold that fate has over you all these years.
Super high voltage, instantaneous kinesis. I mean, really?
What a great story.
It's the able-brained mock scientists that are the worst, you know? They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can't even get that straight. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities.
Aww.
They go on and on about their wonderful hypothesis, their stupid eyes shining like little children's.
Oh my god.
They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness. Careful, Mr. Drebber.
Probably because he's a scientist.
I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it?
It did. You did a good job making a show.
So you admit it? You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim? Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge. Revenge for the future that Mr. Asman article deprived you of 10 years earlier? But the revenge you sought didn't stop Asman, did it? Which is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see.
The condemned convict that you saw rising from the grave in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago. And your account of those events was all true then.
And obviously the Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened. Even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had.
So your plan required that you abduct that particular wax figure, huh? In order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well. Or on Dr. Scythe, to be precise.
I feel bad.
It was a year ago, but some extraordinary twist of fate, Asman turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer.
Oh man, he must have been so mad.
And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye. About the coroner who had handled the bogus autopsy being appointed head of the new forensic team. When I learned that news, my cognitive process started to devise the plan.
What a horrid tale! Susie
He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him for revenge. And have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I had to suffer. Alright, well, that's that case. Your actions against those who'd ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly, no one was right to destroy another's prospects, especially for a purely selfish gain. And yet, in carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you? Did I? Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis, but you had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your own revenge.
That's true.
You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this. Your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent scientist.
Oh, really? Will it affect his career? Harebrain?
Wow. That was deep.
Will it affect Dr. Harebrain's career?
I don't know.
Probably. He is both human and robot. Definitely, Thaddeus.
Lord Van Zieks, what of Dr. Scythe? An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted, and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drebber. A most regrettable situation indeed. She's made great contributions to the profession over her years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is the topic for some future accusation. For now, Professor Hairbrain.
Yes, what is it?
Seems it was a great deal more to your experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all that sort of details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you're absolved of all guilt.
This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. I've dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy. I've been selfish and self-centered, and above all, a fool.
Professor, now you understand.
I've spent my whole life thinking of nothing but my research.
You're only 33, dude.
Misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to despite my lack of talent. And worst, the process I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I.
No, Professor, that is not true.
What?
Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Dreb. What happened was his doing, and he's alone. The outcome is his fate, and not yours. You're not to blame in any of these.
Lord Van Zieks.
And the decision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even.
Not true.
The man has no idea. To believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone, to realize your dreams. That's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices.
Oh! Well, thank you, Barack.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. It's the court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of the charge of which he stands accused. I presume there's no objections. None of them, my lord.
Certainly not.
This trial's really made me think, but this is the right decision.
It's all been proven methodically and rigorously. No misgivings whatsoever.
What's that? He's done, is he?
I don't know what became of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place.
All right, very well, whatever. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant not guilty. All right, let's break for lunch.
What about the guy's face? I cannot believe we didn't get to see the man behind them Iron Man.
There's still 2 cases left.
Oh my god.
That was just the middle case of the second game. We still have 2 cases left.
Court is adjourned. Let's all break for dessert. Maybe some figgy pudding or something, or I don't know, some tea and crumpets.
It's over. That was some trial.
Yep, even with his assistant, Van Zieks still lost. Definitely OH.
Whoopsies.
At least we found the truth, though.
The Old Bailey Defendant Chamber, whatever. Professor, what a splendid outcome, isn't it?
Oh, it is it? Congratulations, Professor Hairbrain.
Oh, Mr. Naruhodo, Miss Susie, I am truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough? I'm just glad it's all been cleared up, that you realized you were caught up in a bad situation. Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd give a whole lot to you, every penny. Well, that's very kind, but I'm just a student, so...
We don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough.
Oh dear, oh what can I do? Aha! How about this, a memento? A paper about my hypothesis is inside. Well, just as a memento then, thank you.
I've been wondering, Professor. What are you going to do now?
Oh my, yes. What am I going to do? My hypothesis had great machine lie in ruins. But still, it's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the great exhibition while I'm CO2 and see if I find new inspiration.
Oh, yes. That's a wonderful idea.
I can't allow that.
Huh?
Uh-oh. Lord Van Zieks! What are you doing here? Barak! I am sorry you had to go through that, Albert. Well, if I'm honest, was terrifying. You were like a great demon behind your bench there, snarling down at your prey.
Oh my gosh.
You're one of the few true friends I have.
Aww.
I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution or the defense.
Hug time.
Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right?
He likes you.
I always knew that you had my best interest at heart. Don't worry. Ha! How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we've left university. We have a lot to catch up on. Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you. What? From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets. But no, hold on a minute. What about the great exhibition? This is a chance of a lifetime for me. I want to look around. No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea. Sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes. Lord Van Zieks. What's all this about? He's worried about the Reaper, probably. A necessary pre-action.
Yeah.
Precaution.
Yes, I think I understand.
You do?
He's worried about the Reaper. Well, Iris told me that when you meet Lord Van Zieks at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsumi was doing.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time and thinking it was nice of him to ask.
The point is, Mr. Natsumi is still alive and well. Even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor.
Twice.
Yeah.
Ah, you mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas? Those in the Reaper's sights meet their end days or sometime months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up till now.
But of course, we know that both Mr. Natsumi and Gina were completely innocent.
Yes. True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend. But, Barak!
He wants to see the sights.
Like the mustached Nipponese, this man should leave the country without delay. That is why I am packing you off to Germany at once. Right! Does your friend-shaped package get any say in it?
Goodness! What was your intention all along, Lord Van Zieks?
In court where people think of him as a Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless, and yet, sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all. It is enough staring for now. It is time to go, Albert, back to the prison for the time being. Ah, yes, alright. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo. Wait, why is he going to jail? Thank you so much for everything. Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you.
I think he has to be officially released or something. Best wishes, Professor Hairbrain.
Well, once the dust settles then, you must come and visit me in Germany. Ha ha ha. Anyway, goodbye.
Cute.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen. Guten Tag.
Now, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes. I thought you gone too. We have a matter to discuss. Can you spare some time? You want to talk with me?
Nani?
I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes. Don't be late. What? That was strange. For some reason, I didn't get any sense of his impending doom as he walked away this time. What is going on? The Enigma. Baron von Zieks. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here goes, then.
Dun, dun, dun! They're gonna show the face of the... If they don't show the face now, I'm gonna be really upset.
24th of October, 4:58 p.m.
I can't
The
take-
Old Bailey courtroom.
The anticipation is killing me!
So, are you satisfied? You saved the gutless scientist from a great justice. Yeah, I think so. I'm relieved, at least, that the man's innocence could be proven. Anyway, I imagine you have been wondering where my animosity towards the Japanese comes from.
No, not really.
Nope. Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagine you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now, I think differently. You clearly know our ways, so I would guess that some specific incident led to your dislike of my race?
Oh my god.
Will you tell me what happened, please?
This just seems so weird.
This is going to be very awkward. No, Professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest.
He took your brother's life?
Clint, my brother, was Clint Van Zieks. 16 years ago, when I was still in my teens, he was already director of the prosecution and a key member of the justice system. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be.
Aww.
He was involved in the establishment of the justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan.
Oh! If it was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father.
Of course. I remember Dr. Mikotoba well.
I had no idea.
I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to 3 visiting Nipponese.
So, you've actually met my father.
He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. It was my first encounter with the Japanese spirit, and it made me a very great impression. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even, just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved.
I'm so sorry about that, Lord Van Zieks. Truly I am.
Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway. So he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me, personally, though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place indeed. When I finally found out the killer's identity, the reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time.
In plain sight?
Honey?
Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires.
A new treaty was being forged, I think.
Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, our 2 nations could very well have ended up at war.
What? A war between Britain and Japan?
But that would mean... Oh my! You mean to say the professor was... I don't understand.
When the trial reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time. Time for you to come face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves
My
now.
heart is in
Confirm it with your own eyes. The truth that's been hidden this past
I
decade.
can't take it. I'm gonna close my eyes. I don't think I can take this. It's too intense.
He was Japanese.
Who is it?
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, a thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before, was Japanese.
Wait a minute. That face. I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
Oh my gosh. It's his dad, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's related to Cosmo.
Obviously.
Oh my gosh, no.
Father.
Oh my gosh!
What? Father?
Nani?
Cosmo's gonna become evil now. Yep, he's gonna become evil.
Hasn't he been looking for his dad for like 10 years?
Kazuma! My best friend, Kazuma Asogi. After a whole year, finally his memories returned. As he stood there before me, Ryunosuke. Hello again. My friend.
Kazuma-sama!
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba.
It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank
It's
you
weird to hear
for
Japanese
guiding
people
my
talking
friend
in
here
English accent.
when I could not.
Mm-hmm.
It was an honor.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma.
I owe you thanks, too, for taking good care of that in my absence.
Oh,
His sword.
Karuma. Great blade of the Asogi clan. Passed down through the generations.
Kind of miss the anime. This would have been a great
When we
animated
left
scene.
Japan, this sword was at my friend's side. A Japanese man's katana is his soul, and he couldn't be parted from it. But then, when the incident happened, it was Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword, and I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared. With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
I've made it. At last.
father. Are you saying... Surely not. You mean you knew all this time? I'm looking at it, but I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
Wait, did he become a mass murderer, though? Is he gonna kill himself? Because I don't want to see this.
Kazuma-sama.
That's your own dad, dude. Like, even though it's wax. It's kind of brutal.
Ryunosuke, we have much to talk about, but now is not the time.
Huh?
He knew his dad was a murderer?
No, he knew his dad was missing.
I'll be seeing you.
Is he gonna become psychotic and be a killer too? Or...
No, I bet you he's gonna become like Edgeworth.
That's all Kazuma said. Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
Where did the other guy go? Vampire dude.
I don't know, but Tuspell's not gonna be happy her wax figure's destroyed. So he's leaving the afterimage of the man who took my brother's life, is he? Yeah, Kazuma Asogi, my best friend. 3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there, some connection. But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Van Zieks' apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia, too? The man was apprehended, even executed. But his legacy just won't die. That is the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. Thank you for meeting me, as I asked. Okay, then.
10 years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. For me, it was the first time I'd ever seen him.
Poor Susie. All this is tied up with the painful memories for her, too. She's never talked about this with me before, though. She's opening up to you because she's gonna... Well...
It took time to adjust to having father around, but it was just when I started to get used to it. He called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that friend had left behind a son, a boy 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, so he was studying to become a defense lawyer. I wanted to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure it worked out, that young man's name was Kazuma Asogi. So you see, that's how he and I met.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned, only to disappear again all too soon. But in that fleeting encounter, something stirred. Something that had been dormant for a long time. As if great wheels had been set in motion. I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter. But in many, it was the start of a new one.
So he's gonna try to solve this case, probably. But that'll be for another time. Another case. Very interesting. The demasking. Save your progress. Yes. Very interesting. So a new case will be tomorrow, guys and gals.
I don't even understand 90% of what just happened.
Well, the fact that he was killed in the grave means he might not even have done it. Like, he might have been, you know,
there could have been another killer and he took the fall, like what happened to Natsumi. Like when they tried to, you know, convict Natsumi of serious stuff.
Oh my god.
So the father might have been innocent, and Kazuma has been either trying to clear his father's name or find out what happened to his father, and that's why he was coming to Great Britain.
But why did he slash his father through then? You don't even know if his father was guilty. That's
I don't understand why he did that. I guess that'll become more apparent in time. I don't know. But the Twisted Karma and his last bow will be another case.
Now Ms. Tuspell has to put that wax figure back together.
Well, I mean, at least he didn't damage the head. He didn't cut the head in two. He cut the torso in two, so you could easily repair that.
It's just interesting. I don't know if it's a Japanese thing, but the fact that he hardly said anything. Like, usually if that was me, I'd be like, what? What does this all mean? I have like an hour of questions, but Kazuma was just like...
Kazuma
slashes it through and then walks away.
Well, you have to remember that the sword is supposed to take the soul of the people it kills. So when he killed the mannequin, in a sense, his father's soul goes with him, and he's going to try to either clear his father or find out the truth. I don't know. But anyway, guys, that's it. That's all. Sonic will be starting up at 8:20. That gives you a little bit of a break before the next stream. Thank you so much for watching, and Ace Attorney will resume tomorrow as we start case number 9 out of 10. So this series will be going on throughout September, and it's going to get a lot more interesting. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys had a lot of fun. And we'll see you with the next Ace Attorney episode tomorrow. And those of you guys migrate over to the Sonic stream, because it will be happening at 8:20 Eastern Standard Time. So that's in about 20 minutes or so. All right, till then, God bless and happy gaming. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks again, Capcom, for providing a copy of this game. It's very, very interesting. Later.